Everybody ready? Good evening, everyone. The Board of Commissioners is the governing body of Clatsop County. All county service districts for which this body so acts, and as the Clatsop County Local Contractor Review Board is now meeting in regular session. Please join me for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Netzer?
Here.
Commissioner Clement?
Here.
Commissioner Reed?
Here.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Here.
I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So move. Mr. Chair, having received and consulted with County Council about abstentions, I think I need to pull the minutes, and I'm not sure what line, but I did say the reason I was abstaining was because I was uncomfortable with the housing study. So I need to pull the minutes, make that adjustment. I just found out when I got to the meeting, sorry.
That would be
yeah.
6B.
6B, thank you.
6B. You want to pull item 6B on the minutes to make an adjustment to the minutes?
That's correct.
Okay, we're going to pull item 6B on the minutes and move that to the business agenda, I guess. Well, you know what? Yeah, we'll move that item 6B to the business agenda.
And
Where?
We'll make it 7E
is that September
6B
13th?
to 7E.
Yes.
Okay. I have a comment on that, too.
Yeah, I was going to just comment on that particular item in commissioner reports, but we can talk about it when that item comes up, the memo,
Okay.
information memo. Okay, so I'd look for a motion to approve the agenda with the change of 6B becoming 7E.
So move.
Second.
So we have a motion to second to approve the amended agenda. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we have the presentations today. Today, we're going to have a great Shakeout Day presentation. Oh, it's a proclamation. Tiffany?
I have a couple questions for Tiffany, so I don't know if I should do it before that proclamation or after the proclamation. What would you suggest, Chair?
Go ahead and
If they're related to the proclamation.
related to the proclamation.
They're related to emergency management.
Why don't we
Before.
go after the-
Okay, well, if you had a,
Okay, if that'd be all right.
sure.
Ms. Brown, in the consent calendar, there is, we're authorizing mass communication. Could you, since we're not going to talk about it, could you tell us a little bit about that program?
I sure can. And I'll start by saying it's unusual that a contract of this size would be on the consent calendar. Ordinarily, the county manager would sign, but the contract, we've renewed it every year, and the amount has gotten to such an amount that it needed to come to the board, if anybody wondered. It's a very small contract. The contract is an amendment to our mass notification system, Clatsop Alerts, which adds an app, a mobile app for people to use. We've had an uptick in users. Astoria 911 got rid of a program they were using to call out teams and do some internal communications in January, and so they started using Clatsop Alerts, which is great. We've always wanted more people to be using it. That happened. The sheriff's office also came on with a renewed interest, entering their own teams and being able to use the app themselves to deploy from the field. And so the app represents a prorated amount to have the application for the rest of the contract year to try that out. I've already got it on my phone, and it does make it really useful.
So it's a way for emergency personnel to talk to each other, and it also sends it out to, does it send it out to the public at all, or?
Yeah, it would allow me to send a countywide alert from my phone if needed. I'd still rather send it from a computer, but in a pinch, I could send it from a mobile application on my phone.
And part of the reason I asked, I know this is not usual, but we've just had a heck of a summer with emergencies, and the Santa Rosa fire, how terrifying that is, and what happened to those folks. And would they be, is this something, if they had that in place, that they would get notified in the middle of the night like that, or?
Absolutely. So those are the landline systems, the telephone lines that we get the database import for, and then anyone that has signed up their cell phone numbers, which is something we're constantly having to market, but that's exactly what we'd use it for, would be to notify residents in an emergency evacuation.
Because I know that I talked to people that were involved with the Comfort Suites gas leak, and they started that evacuation by texting each other, saying, "This is serious, get out now," and that was a good thing that they did. And so the other question that I had for you is, when I'm thinking about these people leaving their house at 3:30 in the morning and, later saying, "I grabbed my purse," I think we had kind of had informal conversations before, and maybe this is just something we need to bring up at a later date, but the possibility of the go bags and somehow getting connected with you all, and is there a source that we can put out there for for the public to get pre-made to-go bag? Are there links or some way that we can get that information out there?
Absolutely. In fact, this month, we're kicking off an employee program, a payroll deduction program, where employees can order kits and pay for them over a matter of months if needed. And we identified some good products for that, and that's a great idea to get information up on our website. In terms of providing them, I don't know if that's what you meant. Would we make them
I'm open to
available?
anything, especially if it's easy for me.
It's something we get asked about routinely, and it's something I haven't really investigated in terms of local jurisdictions that actually provide that, sell them per se. It's something I could look into, but I think in the meantime, providing links for that kind of information on our website is a great idea.
That'd be a great start. Thank you very much.
Okay, so let's get back to the great shakeout.
All right. Good evening, Commissioners, Chair. Thank you for this opportunity. After a very successful September Preparedness Month, I'm here to tell you a little bit about the world's largest earthquake drill that's coming up on October 19th. Right now, as of a couple hours ago, there are 16.4 million Americans signed up for the Great Shakeout.
How many?
16.4 million.
Oh, my goodness.
Worldwide, there are over 37 million people signed up for this event. Shakeout drills, the Great Shakeout drills are organized locally, but they come together via the Great Shakeout website where people can register and design their own drills. The way it works is at 10:19, on 10:19, they will conduct everyone involved in the drill will conduct a few minutes of drop, cover, and hold practice. And that's the message that they push. The idea is that ground shaking during an earthquake is seldom itself the cause for danger. Mostly it's what happens because of the shaking that causes injury and even fatalities. Broken glass, collapsing buildings, that sort of thing. The idea then is to get people to practice to drop to the ground, to find cover near them, and then to hold on for the duration of the shaking until they can determine that when the shaking stops that it's safe for them to remove themselves from the building. The shakeout that we're doing has been organized to encourage our community, schools, and organizations to also update their emergency plans, secure personal space, make sure that they have go kits, as you just mentioned. It's a good reminder across our community that we too face a significant seismic risk in Clatsop County. Here in the county ourselves, we have hundreds of participants signed up. The number right now is 658. Again, that's a fresh number, But that number has been moving up very rapidly since we posted the drill on our Facebook page just a couple days ago.
Are the schools involved?
Schools are involved. I know that Seaside is participating. They haven't registered officially, but they are aware of the drill and will be conducting a drill. So,
Astoria was on the site as well.
yeah, Astoria was showing a great number of the 658 are schools.
We used to have tornado drills.
Yeah, and I think some time ago, probably drills against nuclear explosions, sure. So in a long tradition of civil defense, this is still going. It's very easy for residents of the county, and we certainly encourage them to go to the Great Shakeout page. All you got to do is type Great Shakeout in your web browser and register. I did it myself. It only takes a few minutes. Me and my family will also be practicing this drill, and we're going to try to make it fun, and we encourage everyone to participate if they can.
So it's just Great Shakeout, that's all you have to put in the,
Great Shakeout, and it should appear. And it's a pretty impressive website. It's been put on by the Southern California Earthquake Center in partnership with FEMA, the National Science Foundation, the American Red Cross, and others. But they've really pulled together a global drill, and everyone registers at that single page, and it's pretty impressive what they've done.
I think it's fabulous.
All right.
Any more questions for staff? Then I'd look for a motion to, for the Great Shakeout Day proclamation.
I move to approve the resolution and order proclaiming October 19th to be Great Shakeout Day and authorize the chair to sign, then read the proclamation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution order proclaiming October 19th to be the Great Shakeout Day and authorize the chair to sign, then read the proclamation. Seeing no further deliberations, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Today, on October 19, 2017, this is a proclamation recognizing the Great Shakeout Day in Clatsop County. The proximity of Clatsop County's coastline to the offshore Cascadia subduction zone makes it vulnerable to local earthquakes and tsunamis, and Clatsop County has no greater responsibility than ensuring the safety of its citizens and all those who visit our county, and earthquake safety is a serious concern. With our county as a risk to seismic shaking and tsunami hazards, the best way to survive a natural disaster is to develop a preparedness plan for one's home, school, business, and family. Being self-sufficient for 2 weeks after a natural disaster, as well as knowledge about what to do when disasters occur, is vital. All citizens, business, and governmental agencies are encouraged to participate in the earthquake drills where they practice drop, cover, and hold on the Great Shakeout Day. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners of the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners of Clatsop County proclaim October 19, 2017 to be the Great Shakeout Day, and encourage all citizens to join in this observance by increasing their earthquake resilience and working toward creating a more prepared society. Dated the 11th day of October 2017. Thank you.
thank you.
And thank you for all you do.
Okay, now we're going to have a presentation on the Vesper slide.
Yeah, if I could, just a couple of brief introductory comments. I know Michael Summers needs no introduction with the commission, but, we're often coming to you, asking you to approve purchases of equipment, materials, and all that stuff. And sometimes you don't always get to see what we do with all that. And earlier this year, fortunately, Mother Nature provided us an opportunity by closing one of our roads with a slide. And so I think Michael's just going to walk us through how we responded to that, got that road repaired and back open.
Yes, thank you, Commission. My name is Michael Summers, the Clatsop County Public Works Director. How does this thing work? On March 9th, 2017, early in the morning, around 6 a.m. or so, a large portion of a very steep hillside catastrophically failed, and destroyed a 0.15 section mile of one of our county roads, Old 77 Vesper.
Excuse me, Michael?
Yes.
So are our screens supposed to be on?
Yeah, just go ahead and push that power button on the right.
Michael, did we get a notice, an email on this, didn't we?
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Before.
Yes. And we were alerted, so the slide's located in Birkenfeld. Old 77 Vesper is about a 4-mile loop road between, very near the county line between Columbia County off 202, and it comes back up and loops into another county road, a loop road. it's important for the residents out there. It's pretty sparsely populated out in this neck of the woods in Birkenfeld, but there's some recreational activities and so a lot of resource roads, logging and timberland in this area that this road, a county road, Old 77 Vesper, support. We learned about it, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. The initial report came in via phone to our roads office on March 9th. TJ Hecox, the dual road foreman, alerted me right away, and we had to close the road because the road is completely blocked and heavily damaged. And then I wrote an initial memo to the county manager. I initially let him know right away. I visited the site the following day in the morning on March 10th, and I wrote this initial assessment providing some maps and some pictures and kind of my initial action plan. The Clatsop County, a couple years ago, entered into a contract with Hart Krauser after recruitment with a geotechnical engineering firm with geologists and geological engineers and geotechnical engineers. And I had them come out, they're on retainer essentially, had them come out and assess this slide for us. So I'm going to go back a couple of spots and show you some photos.
Wow.
The slide encompassed 10.5 acres of land, mostly owned by the State Forestry Department. There's 2 other landowners with a very minor amount of impact to their land. It encroached into the Nehalem River. The river in the upper corner on the photo, the upper left photo, is the Nehalem River. It's a major coastal waterway that runs diagonally through Clatsop County from Birkenfeld all the way into, and runs into the Nehalem Bay, kind of by Highway 53. And I estimated 250,000 cubic yards of earth material and 500, 800 trees came down in this slide, all owned by the State Forestry Department. And we
I
got
think that was from the rain that we got this winter, just so much rain, or?
It's an ancient landslide, and right next door to this landslide back in '96, it slid again. We had a heavy amount of rainfall, tree growth over the past 20, 30 years, 40 years, providing a lot of weight and unstable riverine soil conditions, which and very steep slopes, which all accounted for the very severe slide potential.
Thank you.
And here's some pictures of the road. The picture on the portrait side, on the right-hand side of the screen, is on the westerly side of Old 77 Vesper, and the picture on the left-hand, lower left, is on the eastern side. Those 2 pictures I took that morning on March 10th, they're about 0.15 miles apart along the road. And you can see the severe cracking and all on the photo on the right, you can see all the material completely covered up the road. And you can see the character of this road is just it's open to 2-way travel, about 18-foot wide gravel, rural county road, local road type roadway. And so then after the initial assessment to the county manager, which you presented to the commission, and the geotechnical analysis, initial assessment from them, concurrently with that, we did a lot of outreach. The landowners of the slide, any impacted citizens who weren't able to go home or to work they'd have to go around the slide. The fire district, the school district, the forestry department is the main landowner of the area that was impacted, the county planning, and the state transportation department. The initial action was to keep it closed. We want the workers to be safe, and it was actively moving in a lot of, since it happened on March 9th, there was a lot of rain from March 9th all the way into June. So it was still moving during the late spring.
Mr. Summers, it's not your territory, but I'm just curious. Do you know what happened to those fallen trees? I mean, was any salvage use made of them or not? And if you don't know, that's fine, but I wondered.
We salvaged many of them. The county, even though the trees may be in the right-of-way or near the right-of-way, we don't really own any trees. So I got permission from the state forestry to give us the trees. And we had to remove a whole bunch of them, and I'll get to some more photos here in a few minutes. We removed many of the trees, not all of them, but hundreds of them. And we're going to work with the State Forestry Department to use them for local residences for firewood.
Very good, thank you.
It's an easy way, because it costs money to move the trees somewhere else. And they don't have very much value in terms of lumber, because they're mostly alder trees. They're not really Doug firs. There's a few Doug firs, mostly alder, so there's not much value in them in terms of sending them to a lumber mill. But it's very low cost to do, provide them for local residents for firewood, is what we're
Good job,
planning
thank
on
you.
doing. So we had to wait for the summer to let the area to dry out, and we repaired the road. So we rented a very large machine. You can see this is some work that we did, the county road crews did. We rented that excavator in the upper left photo is a large machine we rented. And we had a couple younger, more physically fit employees climb on this slide and use chainsaws and knock down lots of trees and organize them. And then we put a road right over the top. Moved a lot of material. And
So you
moved a
put
lot
the
of
road
trees.
right over the soil, the ground that slid, you just kind of went right over it once you cleared it off?
Correct. However, we put a large layer of rock as well.
Okay.
We built a new road over the top and compacted it. And we assessed on what's the best routing for this roadway. So the roadway is more or less in a very similar location horizontally to where it was, but vertically it's a little different. We reprofiled or we rebuilt the road. We let the road builders be road builders with the machines and take it. It's kind of an art and a science. And it's a rural gravel road. It'd be different if it was a state highway or a paved road, but we kept it a gravel road. In the instances of cost, we got a lot of the neighbors, the citizens out there in the school district and the fire district requested that we put the road back. We wanted to do so at the most expedient for time and cost.
Thank you.
So here's some pictures of the final. This isn't the final how it looks today, but we put it back.
Oh.
The road crews, our county staff.
Looks very
Returned it to a more nice condition. And we use a lot of erosion control practices, and we seeded, and we used, we recontoured the drainage for this, so hopefully it behaves and lasts a little bit longer than 20 years the last time. So, one thing I wanted to share with the commission is with the FEMA process. This didn't go through any FEMA process as it didn't hit enough valuation to warrant it. But back in December of 2015, there was a federal declaration for Clatsop County. And the Clatsop County got reimbursed about $189,000 worth of, for some projects and debris removal, mostly in the Halem River Valley, which this slide is located in. And the volume of paperwork to get that return of the funds is a very large amount of work and staff time, labor to get the funding back. It's about 500 pages of documentation.
Wow.
For that effort. So.
Michael,
Any other questions?
I do have another question, but are you done with your?
Yes.
At the last county training, they, it might have been the one before that, but they were talking about approving certain businesses. Marion County is doing this. You know, like talking to excavation companies and saying, if we have a major emergency, would you be willing to help out? And there's some kind of process with FEMA that they can kind of put their data in there, and so it makes the paperwork easier after the time of crisis. Do you know what I'm talking about? anyways, I thought it was very interesting.
We haven't done the process with entering data into the FEMA spreadsheets and reports for any vendors, but we do have a number of on-call, we use on-call contracts. This geotechnical engineer was already under contract with the county, so we just called him up and said, come on down. And we had the same sort of things with a lot of trades, plumbers, electricians. We have a generator person. We have a number of excavators for dump trucks for hauling material and companies that can move earth and stuff. They're not really set up to do anything with FEMA right away, but they are under contract. So if there is an emergency, say a dike breach or a slide that's a little bit beyond our reach, then we could contract with with local excavators or companies for a variety of the types of events or situations that could happen. It could be something could go wrong in our courthouse, like a plumbing issue, and we have plumbers already under contract, so we can hire them right away.
Well, that's fabulous.
Do that already. So.
Well, that's a very beautiful photograph up on the left.
Thank you. I tried to kind of stand in near the same spots where the original photographs were, more or less along the roadway alignment. So you can see, going back,
Before and after.
the before and after kind of.
So this
thing.
one on
It's
the
not
right is
perfectly, but
the one later on the left?
Say it again, Commissioner.
This one that's on the right-hand screen, and the next screen it's on the left?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a very good presentation. I think this is very informing. After that big landslide, there was quite a bit of loss of life a few years ago up in northern Washington.
And that's another thing I like to mention. This is a very large landslide with nobody got hurt, no property, no homes were hurt, or damaged in this. Our county infrastructure was heavily damaged, but it's easy to replace that. But no homes or no individuals got hurt in this slide. So
And
it's
it didn't
a
make
big
it all the
slide
way to
with
the
no
river.
impact. It did damage the river.
It did damage the river a
It
little bit?
moved into the river. The shore of the river did move about 10 feet.
Interesting.
Really?
So my question was, is that,
Go ahead.
or is that, so what's the takeaway here? Is there anything that you feel that we could have done better, or do you feel like it was very, in my mind, it has been an excellent job you did here?
Well, thank you. I think the takeaway is just kind of to see the process, because we let you guys know initially when this happened back in March, or to see how it comes full circle.
Great.
Really
Yeah, and
appreciate this.
I also think it also helps illustrate, even though this was a small section of road, I think you can see from the pictures, these become major projects. You
Yeah.
know, even though it's a small section of road, there's a lot of expense, time, and effort that goes into fixing these. So,
Yeah.
Great. Is there any other questions or comments for staff? Thank you for your report. Well, that concludes our presentations, and now now's the time for business from the public. Can I see that we don't have any business from the public today? Oh, yes, sir. If you would like to please fill out a business from the public form and bring it on up.
I can do that now.
Well, sure. Why don't you go ahead and just make sure you fill out one of those forms for the record and have a seat and state your name and address for the record, and you get 3 minutes. And
This will be quick. My name's Chris Farrar. I live here at 3023 Harrison Avenue in Astoria. And the reason I didn't fill a card out is it didn't occur to me until I listened to the last two presentations. And I just wanted to say about the first one on emergency management planning and go bags and things like that. I would caution against trying to make easy fixes for people to feel like they're really prepared by buying an online go bag. They don't even know what's in it. They stash it in their closet. They think they're covered. I think that's the wrong way to go. I think it's better to try to teach people to what are the elements that you're going to be faced with. And we've had some great disasters in the last couple of months of every sort to look at. And you yourself have to picture yourself in those disasters and what you need most for yourself, and start thinking about that and put together your own go bag. Don't give them this canned thing where they think they're covered and they're not. because you need to think about the principles behind it, and we can easily teach people about that, and a lot of people have. And I think everything that Tiffany and that whole group does is great, so I'm not complaining about that. And the last thing on the landslide I found interesting is it's a very natural process of erosion. It's downslope movement, and if you looked at that first picture, that was a long shot of the Nehalem River there with the big bend cut like that. That's where the slide went in, because the big bend had kept eating away at the toe of this ancient slide, so naturally it's going to move in. If you look at geologic maps around the county, you could start identifying potential places where this is going to happen and focus on them. So it's just an idea. Anyway, thanks, and I'll fill out a card.
Yeah, thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Seeing no further business from the public, we'll move on, and we'll look for a motion for the amended consent calendar.
So move.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the amended consent calendar. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now we're going to move on to business agenda, and our first item is page 91, intergovernmental agreement with Department of Health Services for the financing of community developmental disabilities. Page 91, Jill, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair Lee and the board. I'm here tonight to seek approval of the amendment to the 2015-2017 intergovernmental agreement with Oregon Department of Human Services for the financing of developmental disabilities. This amendment will restate and extend the agreement until June 2019. The Department of Human Services had been in contact with their original IGA, with work that they had done with our county councils throughout the state, as well as the local community developmental disabilities programs. That contract was rescinded, and they decided to amend the past IGA. So that's where it stands today. This particular agreement would cover local costs we contract with Clatsop Behavioral Health Care for these services to cover local administration, case management, and abuse investment services.
Great. Does any of the commissioners do you have a question?
I
Go
do.
ahead,
Thank you,
Commissioner
Mr.
Thompson.
Chair. Hi. Page 102 of our packet, item 65 talks about service and service element and all of that. It's always, I think, a challenge. I think there's some dynamic tension to look at outcomes, and I didn't see outcomes or results. I don't know how a person would do that, but I wondered if there were process elements, if there were anything like customer satisfaction surveys, because I wondered how to have excellence and accountability without crippling service providers. And I don't have the answer to that, but I was curious if you had any thoughts on that issue.
I don't believe that it's addressed in the IGA, but I think with the work that the county manager's office has been doing with CBH, and part of that has been around customer satisfaction. And I know a lot of that discussion has been around mental health services, but as our community provider for DD, mental health, and addictions, they see a lot of the same folks, and I believe that that's part of the conversations that they are having. And I know Amy does come and catch you guys up on what's going, and I'm sure she would be happy to bring Roger Bighill, who is the DD Services Supervisor, that could help answer any questions around this particular program as well.
That would be good. On page 100, item 47, mis-expenditures. I mean, I don't know that there have been any, but I was curious about it. Is it just a kind of a pro forma thing, or does somebody actually check for mis-expenditures?
You'll remember that I guess it was about a month ago, we had to approve a payback to the state. At the end of each biennium, the state comes in and does an audit, and they think that some of, that there's, sometimes they find that they misentered it, sometimes they find that we or our contractor misentered it, and there's a great reconciliation and then payment agreement that's done.
Thank you for refreshing my memory. Okay, so then I think page 110, I was looking at the service names, and I saw rent subsidy, and I thought to myself, I wonder about the rent subsidy. Does that help meet the housing need for developmentally disabled population, do you suppose? I mean, I'd hope so.
So the rent subsidy is not one of the service elements that comes through the county through this particular IGA, but it allows our local developmental disability program to access some of those service elements. I couldn't tell you for sure if the service element 56 is one of those, because this is a boilerplate. This goes to all the different counties, and so some counties may get some funds and others don't. But I do know that, again, Roger could answer this way better than my little knowledge of the DD services would be able to, but part of the system change that they've been going through really has been about more community-based services and getting folks out living independently versus within the group homes that have been traditionally in our area.
Good. And also, item 2A, a standing group of stakeholders to review and, if needed, modify the service elements at least once per biennium. Do we have that in Clatsop County?
This is done by the state, so the Department of Human Service stakeholders, is that how I'm reading it?
Okay, so that's not local. Okay. Well, I was hopeful we had a voice. Okay, thank you.
So, well, with that, I can say that our local developmental disabilities program does have an advisory committee of local service providers and parents and consumers that they do work closely with. So, and Roger's great about keeping that advisory committee going. So,
thank you very much. That's all.
Seeing any, look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the amendment to the 2015-2017 intergovernmental agreement for the financing of community developmental disability services to restate and extend the agreement in its entirety through June 30th, 2019.
Second.
We have a motion, second, to approve the amendment of the 2015-17 intergovernmental agreement for the financing of community development disability services to restate and extend the agreement in its entirety through June 30th, 2019. Seeing no further deliberations, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
thank you.
Our next item is the wetland credit purchase for the Bugle Road project, page 225. Let's see who's doing this today. Mr. Summers, may I have the staff report, please?
Good evening, Michael Summers, Clatsop County Public Works Director. Before you this evening is to consider the purchase of 0.79 acres of wetland mitigation bank credits from the Claremont Road Wetland Mitigation Bank located in the John Day area of Clatsop County. Clatsop County Public Works staff we're diligently continuing the further development of the North Coast Business Park, the construction of Bugle Road, which would extend a 3-lane collector roadway from Ensign Lane, the center of Ensign Lane, an existing curb cut between 19th and alternate 101, to the south about 700 feet to 19th Street, is this project. It's been programmed for this fiscal year, the fiscal year 17-18. And the project, couple commission meetings ago, I went before you to hire KPFF consulting engineers to be the engineer of record and the design engineering firm for this project. The commission entered into that contract, and they are now currently at the 90% design stage. The design engineers and county staff have been working along with another consultant, Pacific Habitat Services, which is a professional wetland consulting firm, have been working on garnering the federal permits for wetland fill, which is with the United States Army Corps of Engineers, and the state permits with the Department of State Lands. These are critical permits necessary to complete the project. There's a couple of series of other permits through the Department of Environmental Quality and local permits between a little ODOT permit and some Warrenton permits as well. In order to complete the construction activities for this roadway, there's a minor amount of impact over the land on which the road will reside, about 0.79 acres of wetland credits. I'm recommending to the commission tonight to use fee in lieu purchase of the credits, mitigation, the ability to fill wetlands on the site through a mitigation bank. It's an efficient way to offset the on-site impacts where the roadway is going to be with not having to go through a different process of compensatory wetland mitigation, which is where we, the county, would find an area of wetlands that we own and actually construct improvements to those wetlands. It's a much longer process. Using a mitigation bank, the company that developed the bank in conjunction with the Department of State Lands and the Army Corps of Engineers already went through the construction effort to improve wetlands and some existing wetlands somewhere throughout the county. It's an expedient way to do this. It's not in the informational summary, but this wetland permit we have applied for with the Army Corps of Engineers and the Department of State Lands is in conjunction with the sister project. If the commission recalls, back in January of 2016, the commission sold 10.17 acres of land to Big Beams LLC. As part of that land sale, there was a cash contribution to the county in exchange for the land, as well as the county was to provide for wetland credits as part of that land transaction. We've been working very diligently to ensure that those 4 wetland credits occur, and I'll be coming before the commission in a couple meetings from now to solidify that aspect of the project. We've teamed together with Big Beams to most efficiently complete the Army Corps of Engineers process, which is a discretionary process. We have to do several steps in order to do that. The first one is avoid wetlands impacts. Next one is minimize. And if we can't, and then we analyze how much we're going to impact in terms of acres and volume. Then we put forth how much we're going to impact, and then we offset that with mitigation. So the strategy is to do a fee in lieu purchase and do a wetland preservation, which is a sister project that will be coming before you in the future. The funds are programmed in this fiscal year 17-18 budget in the Industrial Revolving Fund, which, as a reminder, was the proceeds for the North Coast retail sale from 2008 were deposited into an account, and the funds are further developed the North Coast Business Park and other economic development activities. The cost of these credits is $100,000 for 0.79 acres of credits. A comparable cost, if we were in Clackamas County, excuse me, a comparable cost would be on the order of $200,000 for the same volume. So it's a little less expensive here. These prices are set.
Why would it be more in Clackamas County?
Because the wetland banks have to be within a confined geographical area within where the watersheds are. So we're on the north coast. Our watershed is Youngs Bay in the Columbia River from somewhere near Brownsmead or Westport in that area all the way over to the Skipanon. The Nicanicum doesn't count. If there's a nice bank by the Nicanicum River that drains directly into the ocean, not the Columbia River system, those wouldn't apply. We'd have to apply for a variance to some rules, some OARs in order to use a bank. There's not a bank down there, but if there was one. So it has to be watershed specific, And the reason why it's more expensive in Portland is Portland is heavily developed with Clackamas County, very urbanized area.
So the John Day River is considered part of the Columbia watershed?
Correct.
And that's part of the
It's tidally influenced.
Claremont Road Wetland Mitigation Bank? Yeah, this mitigation bank stuff is fascinating to me. It took me a while to try to figure it all out. I still have, sometimes I scratch my head trying to figure it out, but it makes sense to me.
And another big component of this, this project, the road and the neighboring project, the Big Beams Fort George project, is that the Army Corps of Engineers has a new alternatives analysis framework that has to be completed. So that what I mentioned about minimize and avoid, and then why do you have to impact these wetlands on this piece of land? Why build road here versus somewhere else? That has to all be documented and analyzed. So there's a large volume of work that went into that analysis to justify why we're building this road next to this project. And I'll be coming before the commission a few more times in the coming months with some other additional items to solidify the contractor and the remaining items to complete the project. Sure.
I have a couple questions for you. One is, you were talking about this project that's in front of us now, that's separate from the Big Beams project, right?
It's the Big Beams project. It is separate in terms of funding, absolutely. The permitting for the wetland permits is a collaborative effort.
Because
This
it's in the same business park, so.
They're right next door
in
to
conjunction
each
with
other.
Big Beams and this project, you're looking at this as taking care of both of those projects? Is that what you're thinking?
This is one aspect for the roadway
Okay.
mitigation, and then I'll be coming before the commission likely in December for the other aspect of the mitigation that'll finish the county's obligation for the Big Beams transaction.
Can I have a couple other questions too. On the mitigation and permits, the permits, does that go first, or do you have to have the mitigation plan in place in order to get the permits?
We have a plan of what the mitigation plan is. These permits were applied for back in May. We have a plan of how to do the mitigation. The permits are issued, and then we do the mitigation.
But I mean, in order to get the.
Kind of concurrent, I guess.
Yeah, the permit, they want to know that you're planning on doing a mitigation.
Absolutely. That is a requirement to get your foot in the door with these agencies.
Okay.
To have a solid plan.
Now, do they look at the effectiveness of this mitigation bank? Is there any rating on how effective they are? Because from what you're saying is that the mitigation has to be within the watershed. So, of course, salmon is concerned with that, with our particular area, Youngs Bay River. Do they know how effective this mitigation bank is in getting, having the pathway for the salmon to do what they need to do?
That's one element in the Department of State Lands area of expertise and governance on the mitigation banks. As far as relative to this purchase, recommending for you tonight, it does not, but the mitigation bank process is generally a 3 to 7 year process to develop a mitigation bank. And the Department of State Lands and the Army Corps of Engineers has to consult with the salmon, the government agency that is responsible for Salmon Endangered Species Act coordination is the National Marine Fisheries Service through the National Ocean Atmospheric Association. And there's close coordination with them, with that agency, with anything related to the Columbia River main stem, which is the John Day River and the Skippon River and Alder Creek and Youngs Bay. So there's close coordination with that agency on its effectiveness. Whether that gets measured, there's very strict requirements to permanently preserve the mitigation bank after it's completely used in terms of the the use of the mitigation credits are all sold. It has to be preserved permanently and monitored on an ongoing basis.
What do you think that the possibilities are of, I mean, we live in an estuary, and the county owns a lot of wetlands, of us using our own wetlands, and I know this is not my idea, this is an idea that's been floated around by many different people, but the county using our own wetlands for mitigation, so we don't have to pay $100,000 out to a private system. It can keep the money within our county. Is that an idea that maybe is coming to age?
That is absolutely coming to age. Back in February of 2014, I became before the commission to develop a compensatory wetland mitigation plan for the North Coast Business Park. And the plan was developed by the same firm for using for the wetland consultant for this Bugle Road project. So we have 14, I'm going to give the plan in a very brief. The plan is 14 pieces of county-owned land. And a lot of them are wetlands. It's an involved process because we have two parcels that are dike, that would require a dike breach the dike to you have to, with mitigation of wetlands, you have to improve the functional quality of the wetlands. So just keeping a wetland, if you don't do anything to make it better, you can't use it as mitigation. And that's the challenge. So we own a piece of land in Fort Stevens, very near Fort Stevens State Park. It has to be under development pressure. There's a lot of criteria as to whether it can be qualified for to use as mitigation. If there's no way for it to be developed, doesn't matter, can't use it. That's our case of one of our parcels out in Fort Stevens. We went through this exhaustive analysis, and I'd be happy to come before the commission to, as we do more development of the North Coast Business Park.
But
to explain that further. That's not a new idea by any means, and we've been working on that.
But so we have an inventory of our wetlands and.
Correct. County-owned parcels, and we have reached out to some private landowners as well to see if anybody else wants to improve their property and preserve it permanently for wetlands.
Well, what can we do to help further this idea along of us taking care of our own mitigation within the county?
We've been asked by the Army Corps of Engineers to kind of look at that, and the couple strategies we have to do or look at is one, an inventory of all the wetlands in the county, and some of these things could take a long time. That's the thing, many years. Lane County has an example where they inventoried all the wetlands in a quadrant of North Springfield, Eugene area, and they decided which ones should be developed versus others. And that could be tough because you're talking about impacting private landowners' land, which is a property rights issue. It's been done before, and most of the time they do it in California. It's once in Oregon. Another thing would be to develop a mitigation bank, which is a 3 to 7 year process, and the county could do that. We have a couple properties that might.
Because I understood there's some property that
That's a 3
just
to
was
7 year
sold that would have
process.
been fabulous, and it was pretty cheap, skipping on. But, so that's something that you are working on?
Yes.
Did you say? That's
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah.
Is this mitigation, the Clatsop County, the one that we're talking about, Claremont Road Wetland Mitigation Bank, is that the sole and only mitigation bank that is available for this project?
There's one other one in the kind of center of Warrenton that would be available as well.
And
The last time I checked with them, they didn't have enough. When I was researching on how to recommend this project, they did not have enough wetland mitigation credits available.
would it be possible to do, use the credits that they have and then just the rest of it with this bank to kind of encouraging more than one mitigation bank?
That might be an option. That would That would require a reservation process for the other bank, which could take several weeks, and a renegotiation of this item in front of you tonight. That could be an option. That could delay the project potentially. So.
It would delay
I
the,
think that it's easier because you need one transaction versus two,
right, right.
so.
So, Mr. Chair, may I? Mr. Summers, my recollection is that when we heard this matter, and my colleagues will help me on this, that what we were told was that we needed to support the economic development by getting involved in the wetlands mitigation, or the whole deal would have collapsed. Is that what you all recall hearing as well? Because I understand that you may have questions, Commissioner Sullivan. I think it was before you came on the commission that we all heard this, that the developer was interested in his business, but all the complexities of wetlands mitigation were so daunting that if we didn't step up and take care of those, yeah, and I think that's my motivation to support this, is that I really do want to support that economic development, and I want to see that business owner flourish. And so that's my motivation in this matter.
And I appreciate that. I just, I guess as a starting point, I really would like to encourage us as a county to continue to explore and develop ways which we can use our own wetlands for a mitigation bank or for mitigation. I think that as our county continues to develop, and it will, we have limited land. Is there wetland that we can hold on to or perhaps purchase that will help us in the future, so that we're not paying out $100,000 at a pop? You know, we're investing in ourselves, basically.
Yeah.
It's definitely something.
I think
go ahead.
one of the things that, you know, we need to talk about in the context of this discussion, and I think Michael said, you know, it's not enough that you just have land that's wet.
Right. Oh, I know.
And for us to get to a point to do all the analysis, all the study, and whatever improvements we might need to do to have some large piece of property available to us as a wetland bank would certainly cost well in excess of $100,000.
Oh, I understand that, but we got to think
So
in
part
the
of what we
long
have to
term.
judge is, you know, how much would that cost us versus how much we would use it in the future.
Also, doing this, we looked at doing this in Gearhart, and we couldn't complete it because of what you brought up about private property. LIDAR helped a lot, but we couldn't, without being able to actually go on these private properties, couldn't really.
Yes.
We had a wetlands committee that convened a number of meetings over a number of years, and this was kind of like the same exact ended up. And I'm in favor of a more comprehensive analysis and inventory of wetlands in the county, and that's something that is evolving, I think. But yeah, that's kind of another conversation.
Yes.
There are those hurdles that need to be overcome. Other than that, I think this is a good deal. I support it.
Unless there's more questions, I'll make a motion.
Great.
Thank you, Michael.
I move to approve the purchase of .79 acres of wetland mitigation credits from the Claremont Road Wetland Mitigation Bank for the construction of Bugle Road, and authorize the county manager to sign the bill of sale.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the purchase of .79 acres of wetland mitigation credits from the Claremont Road Wetland Mitigation Bank for the construction of the Bugle Road, and authorize the county manager to sign the bill of sale. Seeing no further deliberations, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Summers. Our next item is the holiday schedule for the November and December meetings. On page 229, I was taking a look at this, and I was looking at my calendar, and before I saw the bottom there, I was like, picked out the 8th and 13th. So that's kind of my choice. And so if, just to have a conversation here right now and see if that works out for everybody. If anybody's got a problem with those dates, or
Which?
the November 8th at 6 p.m. and December 13th at 6 p.m.
So,
Page 229.
I'm okay.
I expect to be in Michigan with any luck at all on the 13th, but I can phone in, so.
Yeah, that's
Of
great. You can
December.
phone in, or depending on the agenda, if there's no items, we can do an excuse. So does that sound good to everybody? Let's go there? Okay. So by consensus, we're going to go with the November 8th and December 13th staff.
I need a motion. So I move to approve meeting dates as suggested by staff.
Second.
We have a motion to second to approve the meeting dates as suggested by staff. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Commissioner Clement, for pointing that out.
Yep.
And now we're going to do the appointment of the Columbia River Fisheries Transition Program Advisory Committee. And I know all these folks. I would like to compliment Commissioner Clement for for taking some leadership here. I know this is kind of in your area, and so I look forward to you bringing this together, and hopefully we can bring some relief to some of our members of the fishing community.
Yep.
Is there any other questions or comments before I look for a motion here?
I'll make the motion. I move to appoint Lisa Clement, Joe Schulte, Jim Wells, Kevin Leahy, and Steve Flick to the Columbia River Fisheries Transition Program Advisory Committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to appoint Lisa Clement, Joe Schultz, Jim Wells, Kevin Leahy, and Steve Fick to the Columbia River Fisheries Transition Program Advisory Committee. Seeing no further deliberations, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Our final item is...
I'm sorry, Chair, Commissioner Lee, Chair Lee. Did you all get that email from Senator Merkley's office about them working on the federal level of declaring disaster for the fisheries in Northern California? And did you get that email, or?
Yeah,
I
that's the
think I
Klamath
saw
River.
Yeah. I just was wondering if you had gotten that. I hadn't gotten.
Oh, you bet,
yeah.
It's a very serious situation down there, and that affects all the way up to Falcon Point.
Yeah.
In that zone, and that affects some of our local fishers here, particularly out of Tillamook Bay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, thanks for that, Commissioner. That's important, what's going on down there. That is going to definitely affect us here on the
What?
Columbia River.
Could you please tell me about that?
Yeah, I can find it. Go ahead, and I'll bring it up in my commission report.
So our final item today is Commissioner Thompson asked to have the minutes of the 9:13 regular session moved to the business agenda, and I have those here. And Commissioner Thompson, you have the floor. Was there some changes that you need to make, or a comment that you needed to make?
Taking the advice of counsel, the commissioner should state during the discussion, or at least prior to a vote on the motion, I will be abstaining for the following reason or reasons, and then say abstain when his or her vote is called for. So I did say, if we're looking on page 12 of the minutes, line 13, I'd ask that we add Thompson abstained because she was very uncomfortable with the study. Because that's my recollection about what I said, but I don't think it made the minutes.
So did you find a problem with the minutes here?
Yeah, it needs to be added because county council says reasons for abstaining should be included in the minutes. And I checked with her, and she said...
Yeah, and just to add to that for future reference, that actually is specified in the county charter, that if commissioners do choose to abstain, they have to state a reason for that. So in addition to the law, it's also part of our county charter.
Yeah, I requested council to just, partly for my own clarification, because I was unsure. And so I thought that I would ask council for some clarification there. It's not specific to any certain abstention. I just wanted to have some clarification on, for my own and for the benefit of the other commissioners. So, I'm not puzzled in the future, and I think this is very clear, and I would like to thank Heather for putting this together for us. So you have no changes to make to the minutes?
I have some.
I just made that.
Okay.
To include,
And
but Teresa got it.
The change that I would like to make, and I've spoken to Teresa about this, but for the last, it's line 13 on page 12. I referenced the Tillamook housing study, so I'd like to get the link on there, and I'll send it to you, Teresa, which is what I was referencing throughout my whole discussion about that. And then and said get money from public entities. I read that as government, so I'm talking about private entities, like Walmart, Electro.
Yeah, I do remember that you'd had, that was a little different. So Teresa, maybe we could go revisit that. So
And I'll find the link for you, thanks.
Great, well, that's fine. So is staff clear on the requested changes to the minutes? And so then I'd look for motion to approve the minutes and the changes of the 9:13 regular session.
So moved.
We have a motion, a second to,
Did somebody second?
I didn't get a second. I have a motion, a second to approve the amended minutes of the 9:13 in regular session. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We're going to move on to commissioner reports. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you. I went on the Tuesday, October 3rd. There was an OFRI Board of Directors tour of mass timber buildings in the Portland metro area. So we had a really wonderful tour. I've got the whole agenda here. There was a federal credit union, First Tech Federal Credit Union, the Leland James building, that was in Hillsborough. It's for tech workers all over the country. Amazing, set in the park-like setting, and CLT is used for it. The Leland James building down in the Pearl, 38 Davis building in the same neighborhood. Carbon 12 building is an 8-story residential unit, 85 feet in the air, 1/16 of an inch tolerance from base to top, 1/16 of an inch. That blew my socks off. I brought a bunch of booklets, I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but on mass timber buildings and the forestry from the World Forestry Center, because that's where we started and ended, if anybody's curious about those. AOC Housing Committee met again. We've got 10 minutes on the agenda to talk about mass timber, so I'm working to get, during the AOC annual conference, so I'm working to get a presentation developed that will have links and handouts and that kind of thing. Kim Travis from Oregon Housing and Community Services promised that those of us attending the Housing Subcommittee meeting she would develop for us a sheet that gave us all the information about the various ways to get housing money. And so it's complicated because we looked at all of the federal, state, and local ways to get funding for housing. It's a very complex overlay, lots of moving parts. So when I get that, I'll forward it because I hope it will dovetail with the housing study to help us move forward. That's enough on that. Also, the AOC Public Safety, the Resilience Subcommittee has been folded into the Public Safety Committee. We don't meet separately. Cascadia Prepared, Steve Robinson is the Executive Director of Cascadia Prepared. It's a nonprofit foundation that's devoted to moving everybody forward in ways that just government can't do. He's willing to come and talk to us about Cascadia Prepared so that he can help us see more clearly what it is that we need to do as a County Board of Commissioners. He's working with the Oregon Emergency Managers Association particularly, and CREW, which is a FEMA-funded work group centered in Seattle, the Cascadia Regional Emergency Work Group. What the new concept is that if there's a catastrophic event, he's particularly talking about Cascadia, but it applies in other ones, we'll be in islands that will break apart basically because the roads will close or the bridges will fall or something will happen. And I already talked with Roadmaster Summers about the fact that his idea is that we have a cache of culverts so that we're all ready to swing into action and have a quicker response for our roads, which I thought was interesting. Also part of public safety was the Justice Reinvestment Initiative, talking about that. Ross Caldwell, they're having a second chance tour. They're having employer-focused events across Oregon. The kickoff is going to be the 10th of December 2018, probably in Salem, to talk about more jobs for people coming out of prisons and jails. So I thought that would be a dandy idea. What's the last thing? Oh, marijuana. We had a spokesperson from the Oregon Liquor Control Commission to talk about Measure 91, 2015, how it was approved, how OLCC is now going to be regulating not only medical but recreational. They're going to talk about hemp. They're going to track seed to sale. There is, for law enforcement officials, marijuana at oregon.gov, which is a hotline. They've already had 4.9 million hits. I don't know when they put it in. 503-872-5188 for your local law enforcement people. We had a presentation from Fairbour's Paksharesht, I want to say his name, the new director of the Department of Human Services, and he pledged greater transparency and accountability. He wanted to replace fear with curiosity and creativity at DHS. I thought that was a good idea. We had the, what's his name? O'Leary, who is in fact, it just says Acting Director O'Leary, Joseph O'Leary, sorry, of the Oregon Youth Authority. Their mission is accountability and reformation. And one of their priorities is their facilities. And I thought that was interesting, since the one we're getting has the windows rotting from the inside out. So I hope that they do better next time when they're looking to recover those. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sullivan?
Thank you. Recently, we finally got another person that was applied and accepted to be on the Senior Disability Advisory Committee, Susan Sarangi. And so I was very happy about that. They're very happy about her joining. She has a great deal of experience, and so we're thrilled to have her. Thank you, Sue, for joining us and for your service. On September 29th, I went to a lecture down in Rockaway Beach. It's called Say Yes to Better Forestry, and it had Ernie Nemi, a scientist and an economist that deals with natural resources, and then Peter Hayes, who's a fifth-generation private forest landowner. And it was hosted by the Rockaway Beach Citizens for Watershed Protection. And it was very interesting. Ernie Nemi has been around since the 1970s and has studied, in particular, the forestry industry. It was very, very informational, very, I got the right word here, but it was a great lecture, and it was well worth it, even though it was a Friday night to drive down there. And then on October 2nd, I went on the Resilient Forestry Tour for the Corvallis Rock Creek Watershed. It was hosted by the city of Corvallis. Elected officials were invited and their staff, and that included State Representative Ken Helm and State Senator Richard Devlin were there, as well as many different staff persons from the different people in the state. And that was also extremely interesting. And it's amazing to think. I think the watershed was set aside in the 1900s, and that provides 30% of the Corvallis's water. And it's a similar, I think, to other watersheds around the state of Oregon. We're lucky in that way that we have that situation. But that was very enjoyable. Then of course, you know, the grand opening for the Columbia Memorial Cancer Center is tomorrow, actually. And then next Tuesday, Congresswoman Bonamici is going to be holding a town hall meeting, which I'm sure we'll see everybody there. And next Thursday on the 20th is the FTLAC meeting that I'll be attending today and tomorrow. The Board of Forestry is meeting. The Board of Forestry is scheduled to meet again in November. They are they're looking at changing the forest management plan for the state. And so I think it's very important to stay and pay attention to what's going on. Which brings up something I could bring up or not bring up, but I'll bring up. I just handed my expense reports in, and I feel like I'm being very prudent in where I'm going and what I need to do, but it all adds up. And we're only now at the middle of October, and if my expense reports have to go through next July or up until June, I'm concerned about that because I travel down to Salem. I have vision problems where it's very difficult for me to drive when it's dark unless I have someone with me. I mean, I can, but I prefer not to. And so I'm concerned about that, and maybe that's something we can look in the budget issue because I want to do the best I can in my duties, but I don't want to exceed the budget either. So. And the other issues that I wanted to bring, let me tell you, Sarah, and I can send this email to you, but it's Senator Merkley, Wyden, Feinstein, Harris urged NOAA to declare fisheries disaster. Fishing closures in a short season will result in millions of dollars in losses for coastal communities. So they're it's informing us about the letter that they're sending, hoping to get some funds for the economic distress that's already happened in coastal communities. I sent this out to some of the local fish processors and got different responses. And one of them was they need to, please include the Columbia River in this. And the other one was questioning whether this is the best way to go. But it definitely affects us. So, I mean, the fish, we have to, as you know, we have to pay attention to the fishing industry also. And then the final thing that I want to bring up tonight was we talked last time about public comment time, perhaps, and I don't know exactly what the format is for this, so I'm bringing it up now. For us as a board to look at, do we want to change our comment time? I would like to change it from 3 minutes to 5 minutes. I'm thinking about people that travel like they did the last meeting, all the way up from Arch Cape. Sometimes it's hard to get everything that you need to say in 3 minutes. And I know that, so that's one way I'd like to do it. Another thing is sometimes I'd also like to be able to ask questions for clarification. Sometimes we have, the presentations are such that I would like to ask a couple questions for clarification. And the other reason is that I would like I think this public comment period is a way that we build relationships with the public, and that's the purpose of these meetings, for transparency, accountability, access to government. And I think when we have citizens that are taking their time to come and talk to us, I just would like to expand that a little bit, maybe have a little bit more interaction. I'm sure if the room is bulging with people that all want to talk, and I've been in those meetings too, I think we would have to make a motion to limit that. But when we're talking, 3 or 4 people talking and we have half an hour set aside for this, I don't see where it hurts to give them a couple more minutes. So I don't know if we need to change rules or if we just need to, talk amongst ourselves and vote on it, or, so I want to put that out there for your consideration. Thank you.
I have nothing to report this week. Commissioner Mipker.
I attended the event last week for the presentation given by Randy Cohen from Arts and Economic Prosperity, who also came with Brian Wagner from the Oregon Arts Commission, from the he oversees the arts and the economy here in the state. The event was held at Bowie Beer, with the idea that many of the businesses in Clatsop County benefit from the arts. Our clerk of the board also was there. Randy Cohen from Washington, D.C., took us through an example of how the arts brings dollars to the economy. For example, the majority of people surveyed in Clatsop County at these events for the nonprofit arts events came from outside the county. So, and what they said when they were asked about the arts events, they said if they weren't offered here, they'd go somewhere else. So they came here specifically for these events. It was interesting too because it's unusual because other counties, cities, it's the residents. But here, it's people who come here for this. I don't know if that means we're not very literate artistically, or I don't know what that means. But anyway, it brings money in. Mr. Cohen gave a rundown of what typically happens with an attendee. An arts event is advertised, so there's dollars spent there. Often dinner or other meals are purchased. Most typically, items are purchased also at one or more stores in the area. Lodging might be needed. Could be transportation is used. There's also many other hidden dollars that are spent, like workers who set up an event, who repair the venue, or you know, all sorts of things like that. And it was fairly well attended. I think maybe there were, what, 40 people there, possibly. Of course, I hoped for more, but it was good and it was fun, and people seemed excited to know that we're bringing in between $13 and $14 million just in the nonprofit, and we have about 360 jobs just in the nonprofit. That's it.
Commissioner Clement.
I'll start off with kind of an artsy thing as well. The Little Ballet Theater is our local nonprofit dance school and foundation, and they're looking for donations to their nonprofit, particularly to continue to fund one of the only live orchestras for their 42nd annual Nutcracker this year. So perhaps we could, with the same director, Jeannie Maddox-Peterson, so maybe we could get that on the county website. Would be great. And second, there is the Great Columbia Crossing this Sunday, in which the bridge closes, and up to 3,500, they allow participants to run over the bridge. There's been a little bit of hesitance to book this year, I think, because last year was the gigantic sudden storm, and couldn't run and couldn't refund all that money to everyone. So that was kind of tough, although it does say when you sign up that your money is non-refundable. So they're still open for registrations. It doesn't say how many people have registered, but it's going to be a fine day. So if you want to do that, come on out. You can walk it too. You don't have to run it. So
Will you be going with your teams?
I will be going with 3 of them so far. I got 3 of them to go. So.
Good. Excellent.
Yeah, it's not a bad run. It's a flat run. There's just a 0.61 incline that you have to deal with, and then you're home free. So.
Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, thanks. It's exciting. I'm a little bit personally hesitant because I don't really like to be up that high. So I'll run in the middle. Definitely. There was another run this past weekend that benefited the harbor. It was a little 5K on the Riverwalk, and there was over 100 people there. And the great thing about it is it was announced at every sport game and sporting event, including the Friday night homecoming football game, like 6 or 7 times I heard it. So every football player was required to run, every cross-country member from the high school, a whole bunch of middle school kids ran. There's well over 100 people, and it benefited the harbor, and they were very pleased with the turnout. So that was awesome. And just a little bit more on the opening of the Cancer Center tomorrow night. It's pretty amazing to me because it is really mirrored the OHSU's Cancer Center down to the same linear particle accelerator, which is the new form of direct radiation therapy. The machine was $3 million. It was imported from Sweden, and it made an incredible journey. It was shipped across the Atlantic Ocean through the Panama Canal up to LA and trucked up to the West Coast in boxes, delivered in early July, assembled, installed, tested, and certified over a 2.5-month period. Amazing. And the most amazing thing about the whole thing to me, and I don't know how many of you have been involved with construction projects, but I've been involved in several, and they never finish on time. And a year and a half ago, they said October 12th. Amazing. Tomorrow's October 12th.
That is amazing.
Amazing. So it's exciting, I think. Medical excellence without the miles, so pretty cool.
I just, I'm sorry.
No, I'm done. Yeah.
I just heard, this is a little digression, but OHSU has just hired, I guess, the foremost researcher for tailoring cancer treatment to the individual. And so we might benefit from that too. I mean, there's a lot of research that has to be done, but that's the way it's going, and that's really wonderful.
I think collaborating with OHSU on this is just amazing because, again, we can benefit from things back and forth. So that's it.
Thank you. County Manager Moore.
Couple of things. One is that I know this is long awaited by all of you, but our next meeting, October 25th, we should be broadcasting live. If everything works, we should be broadcasting live. So just that'll be a little bit different than what we've done in the past. So, certainly think about that as you prepare for the next meeting. I also mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I think it's next week. The housing study, we've got a steering committee put together as representatives of each of the entities that have provided funding. I expect that committee will expand some, but I wanted to get the original group together and talk about, who we need to add or what points of view or interest, we need to add to that. So we are getting rolling on that. Also just wanted to mention, and we'll get Amy Baker probably back here fairly soon for an update. But I think we're in a much better place right now with the respite center than we were a year ago. We're still looking at, how to best use those beds, both to serve a community need, but also to make sure that the respite center can cash flow itself. So the census has been steadily increasing. We're just right at the break-even point now, which I don't think we ever had a month last year where we were at the break-even point. So we're doing well, but we're still looking at, how do we use that facility in the way, again, that it best meets community needs, but also, is able to support itself. And I sent y'all, I think, an email about this, but one of the discussions we're having right now, and it certainly looks possible. Whether it will happen or not, I don't know. Through the county, actually, through our public health department, they've identified some funding that could fund maybe 2 detox beds for up to 2 years.
Wow.
And so
Wonderful.
yesterday, we had a discussion about that with the board that oversees the respite center. They were supportive. So the next step of that will actually be to sit down and have that operational discussion. How does that work within that facility? But yeah, I think that's a very positive thing, because we need detox beds. We have none in the community. But one of the challenges the respite center has had is it's not unusual that people come to or brought to the respite center, but they have a substance problem.
Right.
they currently can't detox, and the point of that is they can't determine what the underlying mental health issue is until someone is able to detox. So, if someone comes there and needs that service, they can't provide it. They also can't really help a lot because they don't know what the underlying problem is. So it seems like it might be a really good continuity of services, that we could have over there. And I think I also sent you a brief update on this, but really Amy had a person come in, Kimberly Lindsay is her name. She actually runs 3 of these facilities in the eastern part of the state. That they have everything from detox to secure beds, different facilities. So she has a lot of expertise. The state had indicated, it might be a good idea to have her come over and look at what we're doing. And so she was here a few weeks ago. She spent a day looking at the respite center, and then that afternoon she met with some of us. I actually think I was the only board member that was able to attend that. But so we also got some feedback from her that's helping us, I think, kind of craft the programming in a way that it's best going to meet needs. So, again, much more optimistic than I was last year at this time. There is still work to be done there, but I really feel like now, we've really kind of got the momentum, and I think it's, really moving in the right direction.
Do you know if they're currently referring anybody to the Columbia Detox Center?
I think they'll refer people to any place that they can find a detox bed.
That's the closest thing that I'm aware of.
And I was going to say, I know I think there's one in Scappoose, maybe. I think that they're also been referring folks to. But if you get into that issue a little bit, one of the things that's kind of important when you think about this is people that are going through detox, if they can be around family and friends to provide a network and stability, they reconnect much quicker after they go through that process. And if they have to be 200 miles away, where they don't necessarily have friends and family, it's more difficult for them as they come through that detox process. And so, having it close by where friends and family can be a part of that makes a lot of sense. And, I'm happy that we're kind of in a position we can actually talk about this. And we've talked about it for a while, but I think we're going to be able to get something done here. So just kind of stay tuned for that. But I think that's really positive news. And, again, we're in a much better place, I think, than we were, a year ago with the respite center. And again, just be clear, a year ago, the respite center had only been operating a couple months, but it wasn't going well. And so, now we're a little over a year and a quarter into this, and I think we're in a lot better spot.
And that was a piece that we didn't have, people needing to detox. And I think it might be a good idea for us those of us who are going to attend the meeting with Representative Bonamici, that we bring this up, that this is what is needed. We need help in that area, and others too, but in that area, we need that help.
And one of the great things about this discussion is everyone who's a part of it is very willing to come to the table and share and be part of a solution. I really haven't seen any territorial kind of discussions or those kind of things. It's like, hey, we've got a problem to solve. None of us can do it alone. How do we do it together? And that's always reassuring, and I think that always makes you feel like you're actually going to accomplish something. When you got everybody kind of rowing in the same direction. The last thing, which is kind of more of a question, I guess, and you don't have to answer it only tonight, but so we had a work session last week on the jail. You got quite a lot of information, and I'm just open to any guidance, suggestions, what your next steps would like to be. And again, you don't have to answer this all tonight, but you interested in additional work sessions? We could look at something like, putting a jail task force together, to really kind of guide this issue, dig into it. At some point, I'm sure, you're going to want to have more public hearings, things of that nature. But I'm just kind of looking to you in terms of what's next in this process. What do you want to do? What do you need to take that next step?
Yeah, I needed to have a couple conversations with some folks, but yeah, I think that's something the commission needs to think about over the next couple weeks, so we can give some guidance to Cam about what direction we want to go. I've got a few ideas. Feel free to run them past, me, Cam, or I.
Sure.
And I'm going to have a conversation with the sheriff again. So Yeah.
I think I sent your email, Kim, I've talked to a couple people, and generally the consensus is to try to really get out there, maybe beginning with the task force or however we want to do it, to be inquiring from the community what it is that they want and what do they think is possible. I think it's important to put it out there.
And the editorial in the Daily Astorian said, and how are we going to pay for it, which is always the question. So I think a task force is a very good idea to go forward. I think we have a lot more work to do before we take a position. It's clear there's a huge community need, and how do we act responsibly to fill it with the support and guidance and input of folks all over the county.
Yeah, no, I think that'll be important in, always paying for these things, not just the capital costs, but those ongoing costs. I mean,
Staff costs are going to be high.
that is always the challenge. But I also think it's important, particularly with this type of challenge, that, people do at some point have to understand that this need is never going to go away. This is not one of those things where you say, well, if we wait 10 years, maybe we don't have to deal with it. The problem only will get worse, and the solution will become more expensive over time. And I think
It
you've
already
seen
has.
that from the previous things that were looked at in terms of options. So, certainly doing nothing is an option, but in the long run, I don't think it's an inexpensive option.
That's exactly right. We have to do something before something bad happens.
Yeah, it already has. I thought that the last bond that went before the voters was 11 million, I thought, and it failed, and so it's gotten more expensive.
One of my concerns is the medical costs. Not only do we have 2 current physicians that are near retirement, we also have inmates that have medical needs and medical costs that after 30 days, it falls on the county. And so we need to be, if we are going to be keeping people in longer term, we also need to factor in what the medical costs are going to be for caring for these individuals.
So that's it for me.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Meeting's adjourned. Have a great evening.